Right, so I just want to do a quick video on utilising a nail hammered into a piece of wood to create a stake, and a fishing swivel to create a simple snaring trigger. The principle is the snare itself is tied off to a spring pull with the swivel in between the cord and the wire. The peg is then pegged into the ground to a height that is suitable, and basically the trigger is held under tension from being released by nail. So the swivel hook's on like that. Obviously it's kept in place by the tension of the spring pull itself. Hopefully that's in shot. And using a teeler, which I'll show you how to make, we set the snare to a height that's suitable for the quarry we're after. A great setup for snaring rats and probably other animals such as rabbits and squirrels and stuff like that. Using a bit of twisted brass wire. This is a bit light for a rabbit, but probably ideal for a squirrel or a rat. So I'll take you along and I'll show you how to make all these components, including the peg, the T-line, and if needs be the spring pull, with using just a pocket knife. The only cutting tool I've got on us today is a pocket knife, and the nails are extremely versatile things. You can use them for fishing weights, you can use them for triggers, obviously you can use them for building shelters and things like that. And the swivels are easy to carry, especially if you have a fishing kit, and you can you make all this with just a pocket knife. I'll show you a safe way of collecting the materials for this trap using just the pocket knife itself. So I'll take you along and I'll show you how to construct this simple trap for going after vermin. Right, so I'm just going to use the pocket knife to collect a bit of hazel for the engine, and also collect another piece for the main peg which holds the nail. Just safe thing to remember, because this is just a slip joint, it's kept open by spring tension, but there's no actual lock itself. So an important thing to remember is that when your knife gets stuck, the rustling's just the dog, if the knife gets stuck in the wood, never pull up like that, because by pulling up, if it's pinched in there, it'll cause the knife to close. Best thing to do is to lift and pull up like that, never straight up, or the knife might close on you. So we found a nice pit here, probably about 5 foot long, but nice stand of hazel. And if this is the only cutting tool on you, this should really get the job done. It's probably about the thickness of my middle finger, but what you want to do is you want to cause it to bend near the bottom. So you're causing a bit of a bend. What you want to do is just push the knife straight in and down, like that. Important thing to remember is, if the knife does get stuck, I'll try and demonstrate it like that, never pull up, because as you can see the knife wants to close. If the knife gets stuck, lift up and pull straight up, then there's no risk of the knife closing on you. So I've collected this piece of hazel here. It's probably no thicker than my little pinky. Dog's just passing past the camera, there she is. But what you need to create now is the 2 pieces that will hold the snaring mechanism itself. So we'll use this bit and we'll beaver chew around it using our folding knives. Obviously you can do this with a hatchet or a bigger sheath knife, but what you need to do is chew around. That's all you need. Sharpen at one end. We'll use the thinner end to sharpen. Like I say, keeping in mind that if the knife ever does get stuck, to never pull straight up. The thicker end we're just going to clean off as flat as we can, and just chamfer the edge so it doesn't mushroom when you hammer it in with a hammer or a baton. So for the end of this stick, which is no thicker than, not even as thick as my little finger, we're going to create the teeler, which is an important thing to create in holding up a snare. It helps determine what type of animal you wish to catch, because a hare runs higher than a rabbit, and a rat runs a lot lower than a rabbit, so it helps keep the snare at the correct height to catch the animal that you intend to go after. So we don't need anything too long, probably 9 inches long. Just going to beaver to it again, just around quickly, snap it, got something like that, sharpen one end so it becomes like a pencil, yeah, the other end, just chamfer it so it's like a chisel almost, like that. And because of the pith and hazel, it makes it really good for tealers. Then carefully, all you need to do is just put a little split in the tealer like that. So now what we've created is the peg to hold the nail and the swivel, and the tealer to hold up the snare. Now all we want to do now is to take the long spring pull. You could also use a counterweight, sort of like a seesaw thing to use. But what we need to do now is, using the knife, is put the point on one end, the thick end, on the ground. Like that. And on the other end, just cut a notch to take the cordage that holds onto this snare mechanism. So just ring around it, cut a little chamfer in. Doesn't need to be fancy, it's just something like that. And then all we need to do is just stick it in the ground in a way that won't restrict its springiness. So we'll just stick it in here. Right, so we've moved to a different part in the woodland where there's a stand of coppice. Because of the lack of rain, the ground just wasn't taking the spring pull too well, so we're just going to use a standing piece of hazel. We're just going to use a standing piece of hazel as our spring pull. So we're still going to keep the tealer. I made this earlier, it's just the peg holding the nail. Just need a little nub sticking through. Oh, that's in camera. We've just got that in sticking out the side, just a little tip of the nail. It's been filed fairly smooth so it doesn't catch on the swivel. The tealer for holding the snare up. How this works is, we've got a fishing swivel attached to the snare. Snares on one side, cord on the other, which goes to the spring pull. The swivel, which is there, hooks onto the nail once it's hammered into the ground. So we're just going to set up this snare. Hopefully you can still see it on camera. So we're just going to baton it into the ground. Just going to do it there. And you'd obviously want to set this on a run. This is more sized up for a rat, but you could scale up for larger animals, of course, like squirrels and then rabbits. And then really the only limitation is the material you're using. If you wanted to snare a fox in the same way, it would take a substantial spring pull and peg system. So we're just going to take the end of the cord and bring my spring pull down. I'm going to tie this down to that. So we've set up the peg with the nail in. I've had to shorten the tealer, and the snare is now attached to the spring pull. It's just here coming into view. Now, you should never ever be hanging over these spring pulls when setting them, because if they fling up and hit you in the face, it'll hurt a lot. So you just need to allow some tension. We're hooked on. We've got a bit of a kink over a snare, so we're just going to mend that. I had a lot of memory in this, but it set off on me trying to sort out the demonstration, so now we've got a bit of a kink in it. So we've got the noose, and all we need to do now is just set the tealer underneath the trap, underneath the snare. That's to hold it. Hold on to the trigger. It can be a really fiddly business, to be honest, and some people can be not bothered, to be honest. So we're roughly set. We want to set this roughly to the height of the chin of the animal we're trying to catch. So we're going to just lift it a bit. So that would be a good height for a squirrel, just to get its chin underneath there. Hopefully this isn't shot. I'll just double check, make sure the camera. So we're there, the snare's just behind my hand. You would set this on a run. You'd probably want to set it a bit lower for rats, but this is a good height for squirrels. Once you want to set it along a run. So because it's really finely on the nail here, if you imagine, this might hurt my fingers because it's wire, but the animal comes along and in its struggle to get free, it feels the noose and they'll always panic. They'll try to get away, and as they do, they'll just cut and they're left hanging. So that's the spring. I have the lure at the spring to let myself out, but this was a very traditional trap for snaring rats that wouldn't go into a trap, because they're quite nervous animals and they won't venture into a new trapping tunnel for a fen trap or anything like that. So sometimes a wise rat might be caught with a spring snare like this, using a nail and a fishing swivel and a teeler. Like I say, obviously you want to set it along a run. This one isn't, it's just for demonstration purposes, but it's very important, I think, to carry such little things like swivels and nails in the kit, just for things like this. You could make the snare out of inner paracord fibres and things like that, but if you've got snaring wire or brass wire which you can twist into a snare, all the better. It's a really simple trap system. You could obviously use it like a cubby with bait, but works equally well on a run. I can imagine with a stronger spring and maybe a longer teeler and a bigger snare, you could easily catch rabbits with this, maybe hares, and if you live in other parts of the world, other creatures of which may be of value, like for fur or for food in a survival situation. So that was just a quick video demonstrating a simple way to utilise a nail and a fishing swivel to create a trap that will catch pretty much any game which you set for. Obviously you need to scale up to the right size for the animal you intend to catch. Like I say, that was just a quick video though, and I hope you enjoy it, and please keep on encouraging me to create content like this. I think it's a bit of a lost art, some of these traditional trapping crafts and field craft, and I think if you enter bushcraft and the outdoors, these are important skills to learn and practice, so when you possibly might need to use them in a survival situation, it becomes like second nature. So thank you for watching. Please rate, comment and subscribe and help me create this content and keep me encouraged. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the trail soon.